Hello everybody, today I'll be talking about ADHD. ADHD, well, while talking about it, we'll be talking about the symptoms, the impact, the diagnosis, and then about my conclusion, which will be ADHD is one of the most prevalent disorders today. Attention Deficient Hyperactivity Disorder is what ADHD stands for, and some common symptoms are inattentiveness, which is more common in females than males, but also ironically, males are more likely to have ADHD by 3 times. 6.1 million children in the United States, or 9.4% of children in the United States, have been diagnosed with ADHD. And then nearly 2/3 of children with ADHD have at least one other condition, such as autism or other disorders. For someone with ADHD, especially this is true, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can gain a lot more from an image than you can, you can read an essay and then get nothing from it, but you can look at a picture and get enough to write an essay. That's one of the ways that your brain works differently. ADHD affects part of the prefrontal cortex, which is the brainstem, which is where all of our planning and decision-making functions occur. ADHD has historically been considered a controversial diagnosis, with some advocating that the disease is overdiagnosed in children. And then someone who has ADHD may simply have difficulty concentrating, while others may become physically disruptive and defiant and not get along with other people or people in a position of power, such as teachers or parents, very well. Thank you. So the second part we're talking about is treatment. For those who have been properly diagnosed, approximately only 50 of them will grow out of the condition, meaning they can live without ADHD anymore. More than 10% of adults, or 16 million Americans, have been living with this condition undiagnosed since childhood. And then the goal of treatment is to help you maintain focus and increase productivity in your life. So with this one specifically, you will always, well, not everyone, but most will always have ADHD even after they get quote-unquote cured, because it's just how their brain works. They just learn to live with it. They've learned different ways to get themselves to focus and to get their work done. Students have repeatedly found that both psychotherapy and medication to be highly effective treatments for ADHD, oftentimes used together at the same time. Personalized treatment is also a really good option. It tends to include medication management, cognitive behavioral therapy, and then time management strategies and appropriate self-care. Take care of yourself so that we can do everything else better, because if you have ADHD, you tend to be workaholic, can also be because it can go either way. You can hyper focus on something and just work yourself almost to death. Can't focus on anything else besides that. So that's also a problem. Because ADHD often impacts family, therapy can be recommended for everybody involved so they can learn how to work with the person who has ADHD. This can include ongoing medication management. I already mentioned this one, going back, hitting circles, whoops. You need to, not necessarily need to, but probably for specifically one person, sometimes therapy works miles better than medication does. For other people, medication works way better. And then for others, again, you can mix them together and have the best results. So therapy is both behavioral and psychotherapy, and it helps you to learn how to deal with it, strategies to cope, and strategies for your family to cope and anyone you're around to cope with. Whereas medication, it allows you to focus and remain attentive in the moment. But once it's gone, you're back to your normal chaotic self. So pros and cons of both. Factors to consider within both is to receive a diagnosis, your systems must impair function in at least 2 areas of life. So work, home, school, at least 2. And also before the age of 12. If you're experiencing them after the age of 12, you cannot get a legal diagnosis of ADHD. If left untreated, these problems with motivation set the stage for significant hardship down the line, meaning harder time getting employed, harder time forming emotional relationships with people. It's just, and then dopamine dysregulation, which is actually a main cause of ADHD, It means that your motivation is the root of many issues. So your reward centers are messed up. So playing a video game and beating a level can be hyper rewarding, super addictive, and like really into it. Whereas other things, such as finishing the novel you've been reading or anything, is simply not as rewarding. It's like, okay, cool, I did this. Whereas if you do something more engaging, it's like throwing a whole party in your head. People with ADHD face problems such as inattentiveness, trouble listening, trouble staying organized, or hyperactivity and impulsivity, such as restlessness or interrupting others, as well as procrastination. And that is everything I have here to tell you about ADHD today. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new.